Claire Jennings was 7 months pregnant when she moved into the crumbling farmhouse just outside Derry. She hadn't planned it this way. The baby wasn't planned either, and when Tyler found out, he vanished faster than an aspirin in a glass of water. She had no job, barely any savings, and the only family left in her life was Aunt Mabel, who had died the month before. Mabel had left Claire the house in her will, probably out of guilt. Claire barely remembered her, just a distant memory of a cold woman who smelled like old wood and peppermints, who kept the curtains closed even in the middle of the day. The house was a rotting skeleton at the edge of a dying field. Paint peeled in long strips, the roof sagged, and the porch groaned with every step like it might collapse under her weight. Inside, it smelled of dampness and mildew and something else, earthy, wet, almost sweet, like mushrooms growing in the dark. The air felt heavy. Claire didn't like it, but she had nowhere else to go. She told herself it was just a house, wood and nails, memories and dust. That first night, she dreamed of worms. They were inside her, crawling through her belly, slithering under her skin like veins coming alive. One of them looked up at her in the dream, with tiny black eyes, and whispered, "Mother." She woke with a start, drenched in sweat, heart hammering. It was just a dream, she told herself, but when she lifted her shirt, there was a small red bite mark just above her navel. It wasn't big, just the size of a child's mouth, or something smaller. She tried to brush it off as a bug bite, or maybe she scratched herself in her sleep, but it stayed in her head all day, like a splinter in the brain. The dreams kept coming. Each night they got worse. The worms multiplied. They filled her womb, pushed against her skin like they wanted out, coiling and twisting. Sometimes she dreamed she was giving birth, but what came out wasn't a baby. It was a long, pale thing with too many legs and no eyes. It hissed when it saw her, and always it called her mother. She started hearing things during the day too. Whispers in the walls, skittering sounds behind the plaster. When she sat in the living room, the floorboards underneath would sometimes breathe, rising and falling so subtly she questioned if she imagined it. At night, the kitchen light would flicker on and off, and the cellar door would rattle in its frame. She hadn't even known there was a cellar at first. It was hidden under a rotting rug in the kitchen, a trap door with an iron ring. One night she found it open. The stairs were steep and narrow, and the air down there was thick and wet, like walking into a mouth. Her flashlight barely cut through the darkness. She found jars down there, dozens of them, stacked on shelves. Inside were things that should not have been alive, things that moved when light touched them. Small things, pale things. One jar held what looked like a fetus with too many arms and no skin. Another was filled with worms the size of pencils, writhing in a dark syrup. At the back of the cellar was a hole. Not a small one either. It was dug deep into the earth, maybe 6 feet wide. She thought she heard something breathing inside it. That night, she woke on the cellar floor, not remembering how she got there. Her nightgown was soaked with sweat and mud. Her belly felt hot, tight, like it had swollen too fast. There were more bite marks now. Not one, but many, dozens, in a ring around her stomach like a crown. Her baby, if it was a baby, kicked harder than ever. But the movement didn't feel human. It felt wrong. It didn't kick, and it wriggled. She tried to leave the house the next day, but her car wouldn't start. The phone had no service. Every time she stepped off the porch, something in her chest tightened, like the baby inside her didn't want her to go. That night, she started talking to it. Not in her head, but out loud, and it answered. Not in words, but in feelings. Hunger, need, affection twisted into something unnatural. The thing inside her loved her, in its own way, but it wasn't human. Not anymore. Maybe it never was. Claire stopped sleeping. Her skin turned pale, her eyes ringed with black. She ate soil from the garden. She stopped noticing when the cellar door opened on its own. She stopped caring when the whispers said things like, "Feed him," and "You were chosen." She sat on the floor most nights, humming lullabies she didn't remember learning. Her belly pulsed in time with the breathing under the floorboards. And the worms, they were everywhere now. In the sink, in her bed, crawling across her shoes when she went to the bathroom. She didn't scream anymore. She didn't even flinch. On the final night, She descended into the cellar on her own. The hole in the earth was wider now. Something moved at the bottom, waiting. She knelt at the edge, cradling her stomach, and whispered, "I'm ready." She was never seen again. When the lawyer came weeks later to check on the house, he found it empty, the furniture was rotting, the kitchen smelled of spoiled milk and death. The cellar was boarded shut with rusty nails. But he found a note on the table, written in shaky handwriting. "He's born, he's fed, don't come looking." They demolished the house a month later. Nothing would grow in that spot again, just dirt. Cold, dark dirt. And sometimes if you walk by the field in the early morning mist, you might hear something underneath. A soft, wet slithering. A whisper in the earth. Mother. Story number 2. It started with the milk bottles. Tommy Carson was 12 the first time he noticed something strange on his street. It was the summer of 1966. One of those golden-hued Julys where the sidewalks shimmered and the air smelled like grass clippings and melting tar. The town was small. Ashbrook, Maine. Just a line of houses curled around a park and a school, like a smile stitched too tight. Everyone knew everyone, and nothing strange ever happened. That's why the milk bottles were strange. They were glass, old-fashioned, filled to the brim with thick, pale milk, sweating in the heat before the sun even rose. Nobody had milk delivered anymore. That was a thing of the past. Everyone went to Barclay's grocery for their dairy now, or sent their kids to grab a carton before dinner. But every morning that summer, just before sunrise, the same 4 houses had milk on their porches. Always the same kids living in those houses, always the same kids who looked the same, year after year. Tommy noticed it first with Jenny Kilpatrick. She lived 2 doors down, wore the same red headband every day, rode her bike like she was in a race, only she could see. She'd been in 4th grade with his sister back when Tommy was in kindergarten. And yet, 6 years later, she still looked like a 4th grader. Same height, same freckled nose, same laugh. Nobody talked about it. Adults nodded like nothing was wrong. Teachers acted like it was normal, but it wasn't. One morning, Tommy got up early, couldn't sleep. The house was hot and his window fan was broken. He went to get a glass of water and saw something move past the window. A shadow on the street. It rolled quietly, like it floated more than drove. He pressed his face to the glass and watched as a milk truck, old and rusted and painted white with peeling red letters, pulled up in front of Jenny's house. The engine made no noise. The tires didn't squeak. A man stepped out. He wore a spotless white uniform, the kind you saw in old black and white ads. He had a cap pulled low and gloves on, even in the heat. His body looked thin, too thin, stretched, and when he moved, his bones cracked like dry wood snapping. He walked with a slow, careful rhythm, like he was trying not to fall apart. He placed a bottle of milk on Jenny's porch, tipped his hat to no one in particular, and got back in his truck. Tommy blinked. The truck was gone. He asked his dad about the milkman the next morning. His dad frowned, stared into his coffee, and muttered, "Used to be one, sure. Real nice guy, name was Mr. Dalrymple. Died in '46, car accident. Whole truck went off the bridge out on Hollow Creek." Then he looked at Tommy, dead serious. "Don't talk about him." Tommy didn't, not out loud, but he started watching. The milk truck came every 3 nights, always at 3:15 a.m., like clockwork, always to the same houses, and the kids in those houses. Jenny, Mark, the LeClaire twins, never changed. They didn't grow taller, their voices never deepened, they didn't get acne. One time he saw Jenny fall off her bike, scrape her knee wide open, and by the next day, the skin was smooth again. No scab, no scar. It wasn't just that they didn't grow, it was like time couldn't touch them. Tommy started having dreams. He saw Mr. Dalrymple in them, his eyes hollow, his mouth too wide, full of something black and squirming. In the dream, he held out a milk bottle, and inside was a cloudy shape, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Drink up, boy," he whispered, bones creaking as he leaned closer. "It'll keep you sweet and young." Then his teeth fell out, all at once, hitting the floor like dice. One night, Tommy couldn't help himself. He crept out after his parents were asleep, waited behind the azaleas by Jenny's porch, and watched. The truck came, silent. Mr. Dalrymple stepped out. Closer this time, Tommy saw that the milkman's skin was thin and papery, stretched too tight over his skull. His smile didn't look human. He set the bottle down, turned to go, then stopped. He turned back, looked directly at the bush where Tommy hid. "You're curious," he said. His voice was dry, brittle. "You want to know the cost?" Tommy couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "There's always a cost," the milkman whispered, stepping closer. "The milk keeps them young, yes, but it takes something in return. No birthdays, no growing up, no parents, no rest, not ever. They're mine now, and they're always so thirsty." Behind him, Jenny opened the door. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. She took the milk and drank it in one long pull. Her lips were white when she finished. Her smile looked too wide. Mr. Dalrymple turned back to Tommy. "You could be next. You just have to drink." Tommy ran. He never spoke of it again, not to his parents, not to anyone. By the end of that summer, Jenny and the others moved away, or maybe they didn't. Maybe the town just acted like they had, their houses sat empty. But sometimes, Tommy would walk past them and see handprints on the inside of the glass. Small, pale handprints, like someone still lived there. Years passed. Tommy grew up, left Ashbrook, started a life elsewhere, but he never forgot. And sometimes, even now, when he's up too late, he hears the faint clink of glass on a porch step and the sound of bones snapping in the dark. The milkman's still out there, and he's always looking for the next kid who wants to live forever.